during this whole process of, again, kind of dealing with the diabolical and dealing with primarily teaching the clergy, the priests, how to properly, wield their authority, for lack of a better way of saying it, how to properly kind of engage in this process. And as actually someone who's discerning the priesthood, what are things that maybe in information either aren't being taught or maybe you think should be taught to kind of help a priest kind of become more aware of maybe his authority and how to use that properly in cases like this?
It's a great question. It's a deep question, one that would require hours to thoroughly go into. But in short, what we see modernly, and it's starting to swing back a little bit, but what we're seeing modernly is there was an emphasis placed on administration, the temporal affairs of the church, the corporal works of mercy, and this was done to the neglect of the understanding of the spiritual realm, how to minister to a soul, how to lead a soul to sanctity, how to be present and actually spiritually direct a soul, where the primary goal is sanctification and salvation versus satisfaction. There was, in the modern church, there was an elevation of the corporal works of mercy over the spiritual works of mercy. And this was counter to 19th centuries of Catholic tradition. Okay.
When it comes to, I'm glad you bring it. Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that information there. And just kind of in that topic, as lay people as well who are trying to pursue holiness, we're trying to kind of develop a good spiritual foundation where we're not easily swayed by the culture. We're not easily swayed by just, again, the modern society that we're raised in. What are just a couple, I'm sure there's many as well, but a couple foundational things that you think, if every layperson kind of had these foundational things, it would keep them grounded in the midst of this culture, or kind of set them on a good path to be spiritually fit, and not end up in either diabolical situations or kind of catering in and kind of adding on to maybe this modern curve in the church that we're seeing.
It's another good question. So our faith doesn't require us to be expert in anything. It requires us to be holy. It requires us to desire holiness. So Father's got a couple of definitive works. One of them is a very short pamphlet called The Binding Force of Tradition. And what that little volume does is it serves to clarify terms. And so what is holiness? What is faith? What is the operative magisterium? What is charity? And so these things modernly have been redefined, especially post-1955 in the liturgical deforms that are now part of the church. So you got to go back, and Father does a great job in that small book. It's very small, but it's an introductory to terms, if nothing else. What did this term mean for 19 centuries? Not what it means now. And then the other is a volume called Dominion, again by Father. And Father's simply compiling sources, very academic work that's footnoted, but when I say academic, meaning that the weight of what the church has always said is behind it.
Sure.
And so it's well researched, and so it's topically addressed. If you've got a question about the operation of angels, if you've got a question about power and authority, if you've got a question about moral theology, then you can go specifically to a section in this book. And if it's not completely answered there, you follow the footnotes, and so you get it. You can get a very, very specific answer. This is much better than the 92 Catechism, which gives you more of a summary and doesn't go into depth about this is what the church has taught for centuries, rather than this is the post-Vatican II interpretation.